Good morning to you all. Nice to see you on this Thursday morning. Glad we've had some rain, a little cooler, although I'm glad to say it stayed till after I played golf yesterday, which is always a good blessing. Anyway, hope you had a good day yesterday. I have this morning my first assembly at St Bart's School for over a year, so I'm really looking forward to that this morning. And whatever you have planned for today, I hope it's really, really good. Friends, we are working our way through the Gospel of Mark. The last few days we've looked at what you might call 5 conflict incidents between Jesus and the religious leaders. And despite their best efforts, Jesus is getting increasingly popular, so he goes away to the sea, meaning the Sea of Galilee, moves away a few miles. And anyway, I'll pick it up here at chapter 3 and verse 7. Jesus departed with his disciples to the sea, and a great multitude from Galilee followed him. Hearing all he was doing, they came to him in great numbers from Judea, Jerusalem, Idumea, beyond the Jordan, and the region around Tyre and Sidon. He told his disciples to have a boat ready for him because of the crowd, so they would not crush him. For he cured many, so that all who had diseases pressed upon him to touch him. Whenever the unclean spirits saw him, they fell down before him and shouted, "You are the Son of God!" But he sternly ordered them not to make him known. He went up the mountain and called to him those whom he wanted, and they came to him. And he appointed 12, whom he appointed apostles, to be with him and to be sent out to proclaim the message, and to have authority to cast out demons. So he appointed the 12, Simon, to whom he gave the name Peter, James, son of Zebedee, and John, the brother of James, to whom he gave the name Boanerges, that is, sons of thunder, and Andrew, and Philip, and Bartholomew, and Matthew, and Thomas, and James, son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, and Simon the Canaanian, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So Jesus goes away for a few miles, and people follow him. And then he decides to pick some apostles. And it's interesting, that's what I want us to think about this morning. Firstly, to point out, there's various things we can notice. Firstly, the fact he appointed 12 is not a coincidence, otherwise it might have said a group of followers or something like that. 12 is interesting because in the Old Testament there were 12 sons of Jacob, forming the 12 tribes of Israel. And I think in a sense what he's saying here is, especially thanks to the response he was getting from the religious leaders and so on, these are the new people of God. And almost in replacement for the 12 tribes of Israel, we have the 12 disciples instead. 12, indicating here the new people of God. So I think it's not insignificant that he's picked 12. It's indicating, as I say, the new people of God. The next thing that's interesting is what they had to do. They were called apostles. Now the word apostle, the middle there is apostle, and I think that's quite interesting because in a sense, what they were called to do is this. They were called, it says, to be with him. So they were called to be alongside Jesus, to sort of walk around with him and be with him. Notice this isn't some extension training course or something done online or whatever. These people actually spent time with Jesus and he spent time with them. So they were called to be with him. In other words, be with him when he did things and talk things over and have debriefs and generally be with him. It's also, and that's true discipleship really. They were called to be with him, to find out how he did things, look into the way he thought and the way he operated. And so the first thing they were called to do is to be with him. Secondly, they were called to be sent out. As I said, the word apostle, it's got apostle, if you know what I mean. And it's interesting that they were sent out. What you post, you send it. And that's the second thing they were called to do, is they were called to be sent out to proclaim the good news. They were sent out to spread the word. And as Jesus had been preaching and teaching, they were called also to preach and teach. They were also sent out into villages where Jesus was due to come, to get them to prepare the way for his visit. So they were called to be sent out with the message. They were also called to have authority over demons. Interesting, this one. In other words, Jesus is delegating to them some of the authority that he's had. Mark has been very strong so far in telling us that Jesus had great authority. I mentioned authority over unclean spirits, authority over sickness, authority over teaching, authority over you know what. Jesus had all sorts of authority. And here in the reading, we have Jesus delegating and giving his disciples authority as well. The authority that he had, he was delegating to them as well. He still had it, but they were being given it too. So there were three things they were called to. They were called to be with him, they were called to spend time with him, and they were called to be together and to learn together as a group. So they were called to be with Jesus. They were called to be sent out with the message to villages he was about to come, and of course eventually they'll be sent out into the world. They were posted out, postals that were sent out. And thirdly, of course, they were called to have authority. They were given the authority of Jesus. And likewise today, we work and we minister in the name and in the authority of Jesus Christ. So that's what we're called to do. The other thing I want to point out, though, with them is they were a strange choice. I don't know what Jesus used for his HR man, his kind of selection techniques, but the 12 people he picked were an interesting group, if you think about it. One of the problems we have these days is you see them in stained glass windows, these disciples and apostles, and butter wouldn't melt in their mouth, and they looked terribly holy and terribly good, as if it was always that way. And actually, they really weren't. They were ordinary human beings like you and I. And dig under the surface, and what do you find? You find that two of them were terrorists. That's Simon the Zealot, and almost certainly Judas Iscariot. You had one who was a traitor, and that was Matthew, Levi, the tax collector, we mentioned a couple of days ago. You got the fact that all except one of them ran away in Jesus when he was his hour of need. You got the fact that one of them was nicking money from the funds, and he was the treasurer. That was Judas Iscariot. You got the fact that two of them, James and John, were deeply ambitious. So ambitious, eventually they tried to get their mother involved to try and get them a special position. You've got Peter, the Rock, who denied even knowing Jesus 3 times at his hour of need. I could go on and on and on. I mean, they really were what my old friend from Derby used to call a riot room lot. And yet Jesus somehow got the terrorist and the traitor to work together. And he got the best out of them. And he turned them round. And he forgave them. He spent time with them. He sent them out, gave them authority, and made them into the men that they became. So Jesus had an interesting choice of disciples. And yet, the incredible thing about Jesus is he took them as they were, forgave them, spent time with them, sent them out, gave them authority, and they became the 12 who we know and we remember today. One of whom, of course, being Bartholomew, whose church we have here at Penn. So, my friends, we have the choosing of Jesus picking his 12 apostles today. And I think, as I say, the three things we can remember are this. Firstly, he was 12. They were 12 because his people were the new people of God. 12 as an Old Testament, 12 now, the new people of God. Secondly, what were they called to do? They were called to be with him. They were called to work together and spend time together. They were to spend time with Jesus. They were to be with him in comforting each other and supporting each other and discussing things as they went. They were called to be sent out. They were called to be posted out. And they were given the authority of Jesus too. But it's also lovely to remember that he took these 12 ordinary blokes and turned them around and made them into the apostles who we see on stained glass windows today. They were a right room lot, and yet Jesus chose them, turned them around and made them what they became. And I suppose the great thing is that it gives some hope for us, that we're ordinary human beings like they are. And I guess if God can do amazing things with them, then God can do amazing things with us too. God bless you. More tomorrow.